Canada's premiers are gathering in Charlottetown for their planned summer meeting. What wasn't planned was how this latest round of tariffs from President Trump would dominate the agenda.
We will look at all options in terms of how we would respond if they do come into effect. That's part of what we'll be discussing with premiers. Also, in parallel, as I just said, that I'd spoken with the President. We agreed to intensify discussions. We'll begin that right away.
We're joined now by the Premier who convened that meeting as the chair of the Council of the Federation, P.E.I. Premier Rob Lantz. Premier, it's good to see you. Thanks for welcoming us here at P.E.I. You were only supposed to chair one meeting or have one meeting with the Prime Minister. That was Thursday, but you've had this extra one today. What is your sense of where things stand after this briefing from the Prime Minister?
Well, look, it's still early. The good news is that the premiers are all here in Charlottetown, gathered here. Whether the timing's coincidental or not, I don't know. But the good news is we're all here. The Prime Minister will be arriving tomorrow, and we'll all have an opportunity to continue this conversation and learn more about how we intend to tackle this as a country. But the Prime Minister gave us a good overview of where we stand, but the bottom line is this is just the next in a series of unwarranted, unjustified tariffs on this country. And look, I know that the federal government has made comprehensive proposals to resolve this dispute in the past, and they've been denied or ignored or otherwise not accepted. This could be an opportunity to put everything back on the table, and everything should be on the table. So, look, we can look at this as an opportunity as much as a threat.
Well, this is what I was wondering, because my understanding is that the Prime Minister told the premiers that they're still analyzing the full impact of these tariffs at the national level. Chemicals, plastics, furniture, and electronics are acutely hit. But what this does, in effect, is it starts a countdown clock on talks. And the Prime Minister said that if you don't have an agreement at the end of the 29 days, the premiers have to think about what their options might be, and that could include everything up to retaliatory tariffs. Is that an accurate assessment of what the briefings were, and where do you think it might go?
Sure, but over the next 30 days, we've got to be united. We've got to show strength. We've got to show resolve to get this settled. If not, then we've got to have a strategy that we all agree on to hold some leverage over this situation, and that's part of the conversation. So, but right now, Canadians expect us to show a united front. They expect us to protect workers, fishers, farmers, businesses, and look. What I've heard today is that the provincial territorial premiers of this country are in lockstep with the federal government to protect the interests of Canada. But what we've done is responded over the past 12 months or more by strengthening our economy and diversifying our trade, and we'll continue to do that throughout the rest of this process.
Right. So the Prime Minister has said in the past that no deal is better than a bad deal. And as I understand it, there was a suggestion in the meeting today that the best case scenario in these talks could be that there is no deal. I mean, how do the premiers feel about that? That even with this threat of the imposition of new tariffs, we could still be at a point after more than a year of this with Donald Trump that we could be at a point where there is no deal at the end of the 29, 30-day countdown we're in.
Well, look, you're right that no deal is better than a bad deal, and so we'll endure this as long as we have to come out the other side of it. But we are in lockstep. We are united and showing strength to get through this the best we can. Look, I look forward to having the Prime Minister here so that we can continue this discussion. I've heard it described that this came out of the blue yesterday. There's a lot of talk about this upending the entire agenda here at our Council of the Federation meetings. I don't think that's the case. We're going to continue with our agenda, but this is certainly going to be a big topic of discussion.
But one of the things I think the Prime Minister said is that the country needs to consider where they might have leverage. And we heard someone like Doug Ford today, when speaking earlier, saying we could cripple the Americans if we all worked together and cut off energy and did things like potash. Do you think there's an appetite to go to that level if that's what it takes? Because I know, there are two provinces, Alberta and Saskatchewan, that sell American booze, and that's in energy. Those are the energy and potash provinces to a large scale.
Well, we hope it doesn't come to that, David. It's going to be interesting over the next 30 days to see how this plays out. I think there's certainly an incentive on the American side to get this settled. We all know that there's deadlines like the midterm elections that are very significant, and that may be part of the impetus for this coming to a head at this point. So, as I said, I think there's reason to look at this as an opportunity as much as a threat. But we'll look at what sort of leverage we have if it doesn't play out the way that we would like it to.
Right. Well, they're intensifying negotiations, so that's, I guess, where the opportunity comes in. But we have seen that before after the G7 in Kananaskis, and it didn't get to a deal. One of the things the Prime Minister said today in a scrum in Ottawa was that he wants a comprehensive deal. He said, we don't want a partial agreement. But sort of the tactics we're seeing from the Trump administration is to peel away little bits of the trade relationship and try to exploit leverage there. Do you think the U.S. wants a comprehensive agreement, or do they want a series of side deals where they can maximize their leverage as much as possible?
They should want a comprehensive agreement, and but as far as we're concerned, like if we were to capitulate on on the latest justifications for these tariffs, and it just leaves us where we were yesterday with all of the sectoral tariffs in place. It gets us nowhere. So that's not an option. We've got to put everything on the table. The Prime Minister has said that this we'll enter in negotiations in good faith, but everything has to be on the table, and an entire list of tariff-related issues, not just those that have sparked these 338 tariffs. So I think, again, this is an opportunity to resolve more than just what's been presented to us here yesterday.
So as I guess a final point, Premier, when the First Ministers all look at what might be opportunities for leverage, I know the federal government, for example, they could use defense procurement. This is something they have talked about. They're doing a review of the F-35s. We've seen them make other moves to buy things from other countries. Where do you think the country can go on a leverage point without this turning into even more of a circular firing squad than this trade war already is?
Well, there are options, and the Prime Minister did outline some of them. One of those, defense procurement is obviously one that's been talked about publicly, but I think there's some that you need to keep in your back pocket. The Prime Minister alluded to some of them without giving us too much detail, because I think that's something you keep in your pocket until the time is right. So that was discussed, but I think in negotiations like this, it's better to keep your cards tight to your chest, and I think that's a good strategy.
Were you expecting to chair a Council of the Federation meeting like this one with everything that's happened? We landed at the airport yesterday, turned on our phones and saw all the news.
It's not exactly what I expected, but look, as I said, we're going to fulfill our entire agenda here. We've got a lot of important things to think about. This is certainly going to take up a little more time than we expected, the whole trade and U.S. relations part of our agenda. And but again, I still insist on viewing this as an opportunity. How it plays out over the next 30 days, nobody knows, but I think as long as our 13 premiers and our federal counterparts are united and we've got a strategy that uses all the leverage we've got, then you've got to see potentially some light at the end of the tunnel.
Rob Lantz, Premier of Prince Edward Island, Chair of the Council of the Federation. Always appreciate the time.
Thanks very much, Dave.